Hey, what's going on, you guys? My name is Very Useful Engine, and today I'm going to give a post commentary on what is easily my best 5VC run ever. Now, that isn't really saying much because I don't have that many 5VC wins, but this was by far the easiest and pretty unimpressive because I didn't no-hit a single boss, but I did get the 60 on every biome. Now, if you've seen the thumbnail, then you know what I used. It was Electric Whip, and I had a couple different Electric Whips throughout the start of the run. I had this one that you're seeing right here, which is just a base level 4 I found out of the tubes. Then I had a double damage one, and then I had one with a couple of damage synergies. So in my opinion, Electric Whip is the best weapon in this game, and if you really need me to explain why, it's because it hits multiple enemies at a time, you can use it mid-air, it auto-tracks, meaning you don't have to aim it at anything, and it's just all around a really big damage outputting weapon and does damage over time as well. So this obviously isn't the build I used, and not what I consider to be the best build in the game, because this is just a normal mode run. I just used what I found in the test tubes, which is the Electric Whip, of course, and then you have the Greed Shield, which is pretty good early on in the game because you can get some money by using it. And then I also have Lightning Rod, which is a very good skill in my opinion, and Cleaver as well. And you can already kind of see why I consider the Electric Whip to be so good. It's because I'm just able to hit everything all at once, even if they have shields. I'm just hitting multiple enemies at a time, and I'm able to hit any enemy that is anywhere near my general vicinity, which is definitely one of the biggest strengths of the Electric Whip. So if you want to know what that build in its entirety was that I ended up winning with, it was an Electric Whip plus Throwing Knife dual bind with the Owl and the Acrobat pack, and that was kind of like the basis of it, and the rest of it you could kind of customize to whatever you like or whatever you find on a run if it's normal mode. And if you'd like to see any more runs, some guides towards the game, some rankings, or any other Dead Cells related content, then please do subscribe. It helps me out a lot, and if you change your mind, you can just unsubscribe at any time. So with that out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and skip to where the build really gets started. So you see here I take the Throwing Knife and I forget to dual bind it at first, so I just go into my options and change it up. If you want to see a guide to dual binding, I'll leave it in a card up at the top right. And that was a pretty dumb hit on my part right there, but anyways, you can see how much damage over time that the knife plus Electric Whip combo is doing already, even though I only have 7 stats. And you can also see that I've switched my skills up to the Great Owl of War. The reason I use Great Owl of War in this build is because now with the Owl, the Throwing Knife, and the E-Whip, I have 3 things that do damage over time as well as auto-tracking. So I can do a bunch of damage over time from anywhere on the map really with this build. And lastly, to supplement all of that, I have the Wave of Denial. Wave of Denial is just a really amazing skill because it's both offensive and defensive. You can use it to get yourself out of a bad situation, or you can use it to launch enemies off of platforms, and it's just an all-around amazing skill. You can also interrupt enemies' attacks with it. And you can see I also chose Parting Gift as my first mutation. Now, Parting Gift is an amazing mutation with really any tactics weapon besides melee ones, but I think it's especially good with the E-Whip because you have all that auto-tracking and it hits multiple enemies like I mentioned earlier. So what that does is it just creates a ton of bombs and sets off a huge chain reaction. It's also a great mutation to take into the Arboretum because it works very well with small enemies, and there's a lot of those just chilling around in the Arboretum, like the little jerk shrooms and the flying buzz cutter enemies. So last thing for Arboretum is that I rerolled the shop and I found this double damage Electric Whip. Now when it comes to tactics runs, I think double damage items are really worth taking because you're already pretty glass cannon, that just amps it up and makes it easier for you to do damage. And especially with a weapon like Electric Whip where you have a huge advantage over your enemies just by using it, I think taking double damage is a very, very solid strategy. Now for the in-between level, I didn't really find anything in the 60 door, and I decided to take Disengagement as my next option. Now the reason for this is that when you have double damage on your weapon, you don't really need mutations that are going to make it easier for you to do damage. So what you should take instead are colorless mutations or healing mutations that will allow you to just have a lot more sustain. Disengagement is especially good because it gives you a 5-second barrier, and you'll hit that very easily with double damage because most of your health will be taken away in a single hit. So that way you'll be protected from taking damage, and if you need to drink a health flask, you'll be able to do so in the time where you're protected. So just clearing out this cursor, you can see how I'm using the E-Whip by floating above enemies and attacking them from above. And you can just see how much damage it's doing. I get into a bit of trouble here with the curse, but I managed to roll through. and clear it out eventually. Apart from the curse clear, nothing really eventful happens in this level. It's pretty much just using Wave of Denial to deal with the bombs that the hammers drop, and then being near or floating above every other enemy to kill them very easily. Now, nothing else really happens in this biome. I managed to clear it out without being hit. And once I open this door, I see the Cocoon and hesitate a little bit, but I do eventually decide to take it, which was a mistake. And I thought having the Cocoon and the ability to parry would be a good defensive option, since the rest of my build is killing everything very easily. But the problem was the rest of my build was killing everything so fast that there was never a time where I really needed to use the Cocoon. It was kind of just a wasted slot. And as you can see here, I do have a lot of burning synergy on my build, so I was looking to put a Firebrands in the backpack and use that in the future. Now I decided to go into the Ancient Sewers on this run, and the reason being was that I could kill Conjunctivius very easily with this build, just because I had auto-tracking and damage over time, which are the two main aspects of being able to easily kill Conjunctivius. Another way to easily kill Conjunctivius is Crow's Foot, because it's very, very good in the Tentacles phase, which is why I took it there. Then for my last two, I took Disengagement and Recovery, just because I have the double damage, and having those there to help me get my health back up after being hit only once is very, very helpful. And I take back what I said at the beginning about getting a 60 on every level, because I actually didn't get one here. The reason being was I got very perfectly spaced out hits that just made it to where I couldn't possibly get the 60. I only got hit like twice or 3 times, but I had a pretty good kill streak going on all of them, so I unfortunately wasn't able to get the 60 kill for this level. Luckily, because I had recovery in my inventory, and I was right about to go up to a boss, even though I got hit a couple times on tactics with double damage, it wasn't a big deal, because I could just heal myself back up with recovery and then eat food, whether it be infected or not. Second hit I took wasn't from an enemy, but it was right here. Kind of unlucky, kind of my fault for doing that. Whatever, it's not a big deal. The last one was definitely my fault. It was a pretty stupid mistake on my part. So it's just right here. There's a couple enemies in this hallway and I didn't really commit to anything, so I tried to roll away from the failed experiment and went right into one of those bombs. I took a surprisingly low amount of damage for it, and then I was able to eat that big food as well as a small infected food, get my health all the way back up, but unfortunately there was no 60 kill possible for me, because I had a 40 kill streak on both of those times I got hit. So right after I finish, I just go straight into the boss fight. As you can see, I had the Firebrands in my inventory. I don't know if you guys noticed that, because I forgot to mention it. But I bought it from a shop in here. Now that I have it, I was thinking about resetting my mutations once again. I was kind of going in and out of different builds here, so I did end up resetting them. I went for Acrobat Pack just so I could get that bonus to Burning Oil. My E-Wep had bonus to Burning Oil and 100% damage, so that's effectively a triple damage Electric Whip, and my Owl was a very easy oil source for me in this run. I upgraded it just so I could have more damage and try and get some synergy on it. I think I'm like 90% S rank on the Forge, but I still find a couple plus weapons here and there. For my second reset, I also kept Crow's Foot and Disengage, because Crow's Foot is very helpful against this boss, and Disengage, in general, when you have double damage, is a very good mutation to take. Also, at some point in Ancient Sewers, I switched out my Cocoon for a Lacerating Aura, just because I realized the Cocoon wasn't really doing anything for me at that point, and I needed to switch it out. I believe it had bonus to bleeding, and the Owl I'm using has oil and bonus to bleeding, so I have some pretty good synergies going on at the moment. So as you can see, I'm just fighting Conjunctivius here, and the fact that I have a bunch of auto-tracking on my build makes it very easy for me to hit her. Even though she's running away from me, I can still keep up with her, just keep firing away. And one thing you can do in this fight, you just saw me do, is jump over that tentacle. So even if you use up your roll cooldown, and you think you're about to get hit, you can double jump over the tentacles as well. That's another way you can get out of danger. So just looking out for that charge attack, I roll away from it. I'm unfortunately not going to no-hit this boss, but I did no-hit the first 2 phases. I go into another tentacle phase. My biggest tip for the tentacle phase is to just stay in the corner and camp them out. One of them's going to come towards you, and then the other ones are going to come from far away. So if you stay in the corner, that'll give you the most time as possible to react to the ones that are coming across the screen at you, and it'll make it very easy to predict where the ones that are coming straight up at you are coming from. So right there, I tried to roll, but I guess it just didn't happen, and I tried to weave through those as well. Didn't work, so I took the opportunity as she was doing the AoE attack to just heal. You shouldn't be afraid to heal in a boss fight, especially if you're low HP, because you don't want to just have your run be ended. And I was planning on going into Graveyard since E-Whip does very well in there, so I can just buy a refill from the health boss store. And this is why Conjunctivius is a very lucrative boss to go to, because she drops 5 scroll fragments, unlike Mamatik who drops 4 and Concierge who only drops 3. So even though my scroll count was pretty mediocre, I didn't find a single challenge rift this entire run, and I didn't get very lucky with dual stats either. I still was able to get a pretty respectable 32 scrolls in the end, just by going to the Ancient Sewers and then Conjunctivius without even going to the Toxic Sewers, which are also pretty good for scroll fragments. So yeah, just going there, it's a very good idea. So like I mentioned, I'm going to Graveyard on this run, and I'm very close to the 60 here. I cleared out every enemy on the top part, and I only need to kill one more. So I kill this rat right here and the Inquisitor next to it, and now I'm on 61 kills. And even invisibility isn't really a problem for the E-Whip, just because you can attack an enemy without even knowing where it is or even seeing it. So if you just spam in the general direction of an invisible enemy, then you'll be able to kill them, no problem. And like I mentioned before, the E-Whip is very, very good in the Graveyard, as you see me almost go outside of that box, but luckily I had the reflexes to jump up. Anyways, the reason E-Whip is so good is because there's kind of rats laying around everywhere, but with the E-Whip you're able to kill them just by attacking whatever's in front of them. And as you see me go into this room, I just leave it open so that I can go in there with the curse and clear out the enemies that are in there. Another reason that Electric Whip works quite nicely in Graveyard is because some of the enemies are in water, and if you didn't know, the Electric Whip crits on anything that's in water just because it's electricity. So in the shop, I see another Electric Whip, and this one has bonus to Burning Oil and Bleeding, which is perfect. It's also higher level, so I decide to take this over the double damage just because it's plus 160 instead of 200, and it's higher level without as much glass cannon to it. So yeah, I decide to take that because I'm getting both of those synergies very easily, and it's still going to do very, very good damage without the risk of double damage. Right here, I'm also going to take the curse and just take it over to the food room. That's the reason why I left immediately earlier on in this clip. It's because I wanted to be able to just grab the curse and then take it right into the fight. So I'm just going to enter into this room, and there's lots of rats and easy enemies just lying around. And what I did right there was I waited for the Inquisitor to shoot at me so that I wasn't on cooldown with my roll. So I'm just using my brain a little bit and going a little slower than normal, but as you can see, I'm still able to go very fast. So I simultaneously clear out this room and this curse, and just go right up to the food room. And I bought myself a health pot refill. I don't end up picking the malaise potion because I don't really need it. After that, all that was left to do was to just pick up anything that was going to give me some money, and then I head right on into the Sepulcher. So just skipping right ahead to the curse, I picked it up. I saw my second purple Cyclaws this entire run for some reason. It's kind of weird, but this is a very good build for clearing out Sepulcher, just because everything is in groups of other monsters, and the Electric Whip obviously is able to hit groups. It also auto-targets the bats that are going to be lying around, and I made a big mistake here. For some reason I didn't see that elite symbol due to the darkness, of course, so I just thought that was a normal Inquisitor. Luckily with one dodge roll though, I was able to get away from the turret that spawned and kill him and clear the curse. Now I'm in trouble with a curse again here, and it's for a completely different reason. So I got a little hasty in picking it up because there was an enemy chasing me, and that just means a free kill. So I got it down to 9. The problem is there was nowhere else to go on the map but a jump puzzle with a bunch of the balls swinging around. So I definitely did not want to go there. So what I did was I came up with a new strategy for cheesing the curse in the Forgotten Sepulcher. Now if you want to clear out the curse normally, definitely don't do what I did, and make sure you always scout out ahead before you take a curse in the Sepulcher, because otherwise you might end up with what happens here, where the the only place where I can possibly go is filled with spikes and maces. So I'm gonna do a big time lapse of what happened here, but basically I was just going around looking for enemies that I could kill without going up into the spikes. But I wasn't finding anything, I was just finding shops. And I did get a better throwing knife, it had burning oil synergy, but that's besides the point. I was just looking for a place to go where I didn't have to go through the spikes, and there was no option for me. So one thing I've learned is that if you're sitting inside of a light source, then enemies will not spawn on you. But if you're in the darkness itself, then enemies will spawn. So I allowed myself to get up to 2 melees just by standing in the light, and then I ran back and forth between 2 permanent light sources, waiting for enemies to spawn so that I could spawn kill them and clear out the curse for free. If your melees is already high, then there won't be much setup for this, but I had to just wait a little bit in order to set it up. And I'm just running back and forth between 2 permanent light sources, killing enemies as they spawn in, and that way I'm able to clear out the curse without actually going anywhere. So I just continue this process, wait for enemies to spawn in, and the beauty of this is that as soon as I cleared it out and went through those spikes, I actually got hit by them. So if I had attempted to go through there with the curse, I would have just died, but instead I used a strategy, and I was able to clear out the curse just fine. Now after that, I was able to go through the rest of the level pretty quickly and get my melees back down to normal. So all that means is that I could eat infected food and be just fine, because after I kill the giant, I'll get all my health back. So yeah, heading on into the giant fight. Here's what the build was looking like. Level 10 throwing knife with bonus to burning oil. An electric book with bonus to burning oil and bleeding. 5 brands in the backpack just so I can get that burning oil. An owl as an oil source. It also has bonus to bleeding. And lastly, a lacerating aura with bonus to burning oil. Yeah, I have everything I need for giant. I have a bunch of auto-tracking weapons and 2 skills that are great against him, plus a lot of damage synergy and an okay-ish scroll count. So I'm able to very, very quickly melt him here. Unfortunately, I'm not going to get the no-hit, as you'll see coming up in just a second. As the crystals are falling down, I just roll right into one. So yeah, unfortunate, didn't get the no-hit, but I did get a very, very quick and easy win. And if you're still trying to beat 4BC, all you have to do is beat the giant. You don't actually have to kill Hand of the King. So this could be the best build for you. So I went to Hypey Castle on this run. Couple of reasons for not skipping it is that I wanted to spend my cells on the forge. I also had 2 scroll fragments, and if you have 2 or 3 in your inventory, then you're guaranteed at least 1 extra scroll by going there. You also do get the dual stats, and you get more chances for money and items. So my scroll count at this point was looking very mediocre, so I'm glad I made the decision to go into Hypey Castle, because if not I would have been at 30. Instead I was at 31 and managed to get in 32 in the 5BC spoiler area. Now, when you do have a lot of damage synergy on your weapons like I do, the scroll count you have isn't the end-all be-all. But I did want to go here because I knew it would just be a walk in the park like every other biome for me has been. The 2 biggest threats in here are the demons and the royal guards. And the royal guards I can float above them, the demons I can auto-track onto them and stun them briefly to get a free kill. So coming up here is a pretty good example of decision making. First up, you can see my damage, as I don't have any of the scrolls here, but I just killed him. And then, I'm about to go fight this elite. Nah. I was born on a day, but it wasn't yesterday. Come on, get real. So I pick up all my scrolls, right at the end of the level, just coming over here to get this last scroll. Make sure you get all 3 keys when you come here, otherwise there's no point of even going to Hypey Castle. So I just recycle the Swift Sword, grab the scroll, and then I'm on my way to the Hand of the King. So about to go fight him. Just make sure you roll before the fight if you have Acrobata Pack, so that way it's ready for you. So the strategy I like to use for Hand of the King is when he does his big slash at the start of the match, just roll behind and use all your cooldowns on him to get a lot of damage in. And that hitbox lately has been destroying me if you go back and watch my first video before this. Anyways, I just continue on fighting him. He hits me with it again. I'm unable to jump because I was stunned from the first hit, so disengage pox, I just take a health pot, it's no big deal. Coming up on the 5BC biome where I can buy another one. So it goes up to bring the enemies down. I can kill them all pretty quickly. I just wait on the bottom for the Inquisitor to teleport down to me, because that's what the elites will do. You don't need to go up there and fight him. And I roll through him here. The owl kills that for me. And make sure you wait that attack out as long as possible, the big slam. just sit on the ground until he almost comes right down. Then you want to go up on the platform, because otherwise you might run out of time and get hit by the attack after he's already hit the ground. So pretty bad, but not horrible Hand of the King fight, and we're off to the 5BC spoiler biome. 5BC spoilers, obviously. If you don't want to know what happens once you hit 5BC, then you should click off the video now. So I'm not going to show much of this biome, just because the two biggest threats are the Librarians and Slammers. Librarians, I can auto-track and kill them instantly. Slammers, I can float above them with my attacks, and not have to deal with them ever seeing me. So it was very easy biome to clear out. I just had to be wary of the traps, and that was really it. You saw me get a level upgrade to my Lacerating Aura. I'm pretty sure I upgraded my Owl in that same span as well. It had Spread Oil and bonus to bleeding just like the last one. So I pick up the Hemorrhage blueprint here. The reason being, this is actually my first 5BC win on a new save file. I had the game on the Windows Store and I bought it on Steam so that I could play the update early. And so this was actually my first 5BC win on this particular save file. A couple runs before this was a very mediocre explosive crossbow run where I died on the last phase of the collector. So I got the Thunder Shield blueprint from that run, but I actually didn't get Hemorrhage, so I was glad to get it there. You can also see I hit 32 stats instead of 31, which is what I was at. And reason being, I found a dual stat here which had 8 tactics on it. There's always 2 dual stats in the 5BC biome instead of any normal scrolls, so if you can get lucky then you can increase by 1 and maybe find a challenge rift as well. So I thought I'd show this little trick here. I'm sure most of you know it, but once you go up this elevator, you can use your head on one of the birds. The other one will follow. You just go back down the elevator and kill them as they're falling down. That way they won't be able to contest you at all. Quickly before I left, I just grabbed the Malaise potion because I had enough money too, and then it was off to the races to go fight the collector. I reset my mutations here because I didn't need Crow's Foot anymore, and I kept everything else. I just replaced Crow's Foot with Emergency Triage because it's very good in this fight. This is the funniest loading screen in the game, and if you want to see it for yourself, then you better get good. So off to the races with the collector, and I'm looking pretty good. I have 4 health pots and 100% health. Also a lot of damage synergy and an acceptable scroll count. So I knew this wouldn't last long. I was trying to get the no-hit here. Fortunately, I just barely missed it, as you're gonna see here. So I just start off by activating both my skills to get some chip damage in. And right there is where I lost it. I rallied back some health, but I made the mistake of not rolling fast enough, so that is on me. Just dodge the things as they're falling down. My only real issue in this fight was that I was running out of throwing knives. But he does do some phase transition, so it wasn't hard to get him back as I get him to drink his second potion in the first room here. So he teleports me to the enemies. I quickly take him out and roll away from that bomb that's falling down. Then I pop my skill again. Get him to do yet another drink. Keep my owl. I don't activate it yet because I know he's about to teleport into to a different room. So now that we're in that other room, I just activate my owl, and as my owl is doing some good damage, I just focus on dodging all these attacks that he's throwing out. You definitely don't need a shield for this fight. It helps, but everything is timed out perfectly to the roll, so as long as you pay attention and don't try attacking in between, then you'll be able to get it. And with the emergency triage, I had the shield, and that is the end of the run. So yeah, let me know any feedback you guys have for me in the comments below. I'd be curious to see what you guys think. And thank you for watching. I hope you guys find some success with this build like I do, because like I said, I think it is the best build in the game currently. As I just beat the collector up here, you're gonna see I actually get the achievement for it since it's my first time beating the game on 5BC on Steam. And yeah, that about wraps it up. Thank you guys for tuning in. My name's Very Useful Engine, and I'll see you later.